Somewhere around 3 or 4 in the morning last night, your body made a decision that had almost nothing to do with your alarm clock. It decided how tired you would feel today, and it made that decision hours before you ever opened your eyes. Not based on what time you went to bed, not even based on how many hours you spent lying there, based on something else entirely, something almost nobody explains to you, something your phone's sleep tracker barely scratches the surface of. I used to think waking up exhausted after a full 8 hours was some kind of personal failure. Bad willpower, too much stress, not enough discipline. Then I started reading the actual sleep research, the kind that doesn't make it into morning television, and I realized I had the entire question backwards from the start. The number of hours was never really the point. What happens inside those hours, that's the part nobody sits you down and explains. And once you see it clearly, you start noticing it in your own nights, almost every single one of them. Here's the part that surprised me the most when I first came across it. Your night isn't one long, uniform block of sleep. It's built from repeating cycles, and each cycle takes roughly 90 minutes to complete. Over a full night, a healthy adult moves through somewhere between 4 and 6 of these cycles, one after another, like chapters in a book you don't remember reading. Inside each cycle, your brain and body pass through distinct stages. Researchers usually describe 4 of them. There's a light stage right at the edge of sleep, where you could still be pulled back awake by almost nothing. A sound, a shift in the mattress, a dog barking 2 houses down. Then a second stage, still light, but your body starts committing a little more. Your heart rate slows, your temperature drops slightly, your muscles begin to loosen. Then comes what researchers call deep sleep, sometimes labeled stage 3, sometimes called slow wave sleep. This is the stage where your brain waves slow down dramatically, where your body does its heaviest physical repair work, tissue recovery, immune system reinforcement, the release of growth hormone. And then, later in each cycle, REM sleep arrives, the stage where your eyes move rapidly beneath closed lids, where most vivid dreaming happens, and where a huge amount of memory processing and emotional regulation takes place. Here's the detail I think changes everything once you actually sit with it. Deep sleep, that heavy, physically restorative stage, is front-loaded into the first half of your night. In your earliest cycles, deep sleep stretches can last 20 to 40 minutes at a time. But as the night goes on, each successive cycle contains less and less deep sleep, and more REM. By your last 1 or 2 cycles before waking, you're spending most of your time in lighter stages and REM, almost no time in deep, physically restorative sleep at all, which means the timing of your sleep matters just as much as the length of it. 2 people can both sleep 8 hours. One of them protects those early cycles, falls asleep at a consistent time, isn't interrupted in the first few hours, and gets a full, rich dose of deep sleep while their body does its heaviest repair work. The other person falls asleep late, gets interrupted early, or has their early cycles disturbed by stress, alcohol, or a late meal still being digested. And even with the same 8 hours logged, they get far less of that deep, restorative stage. Same number on the clock. Completely different night, biologically speaking. I remember the first time I actually understood this, I felt almost frustrated, like I'd been asking the wrong question my entire adult life. Did I get 8 hours is such an easy question to ask, and such a satisfying one to answer because it's just arithmetic. Count backward from your alarm, subtract your bedtime, done. But biologically, that question barely scratches the surface of what your body actually needs. I think this is exactly why so many people feel confused and even a little betrayed by their own bodies. They did the right thing by the only metric anyone ever taught them, hours in bed, and they still woke up exhausted. It's not that they failed at sleep. It's that the metric itself was incomplete the whole time. There's something else worth sitting with here, and it's not something you'll usually hear phrased this directly. Waking up in the middle of a deep sleep stage, rather than at the natural, lighter edge of a cycle, tends to produce a noticeably heavier, foggier kind of grogginess. Researchers sometimes call this sleep inertia, and it can linger for 20 minutes or more after you're technically awake. If your alarm happens to go off in the middle of one of those deep, slow-wave stretches, you can end up feeling worse than someone who slept an hour less but woke up naturally at the tail end of a cycle in one of the lighter stages. So even the exact minute your alarm is set for is quietly shaping how the rest of your morning feels. Let me bring this a little closer to your actual evening, because I think the abstract version, cycles, stages, percentages, only means something once you connect it to the specific things you do between dinner and lights out. A late heavy meal is one of the more underrated disruptors here. Digestion raises your core body temperature and keeps your metabolism more active, right when your body is trying to cool down and slow down to initiate those early, deep cycles. Alcohol is another one people consistently get wrong, and I want to be honest with you about this because the popular version of this advice is only half true. Alcohol can make you fall asleep faster. It's a sedative, so that part checks out. But it disrupts the architecture of your early cycles. It suppresses REM sleep in the first half of the night, and as it metabolizes out of your system in the second half, it tends to fragment sleep, causing more brief awakenings you won't even remember in the morning. You wake up, technically, having slept 8 hours. Your body knows a very different story. Stress works on this system too, but through a different channel, one connected to a hormone called cortisol. Cortisol isn't some villain, by the way, whatever you might have heard. It's a completely normal, necessary hormone. It's supposed to be low at night and rise sharply right around when you wake up. That morning spike is actually what helps you feel alert. Research on this rise, sometimes called the cortisol awakening response, shows it typically increases by somewhere between 30 and 70% in the first half hour after waking, in a healthy pattern. That's normal. That's your body doing its job correctly. But when stress stays unresolved late into the evening, a hard conversation left hanging, a work problem you haven't mentally closed the loop on, cortisol can stay elevated later into the night than it should. And an elevated cortisol level in the evening works directly against the process your body needs to drop into those early, deep, restorative cycles. It's not that stress keeps you up thinking. That's the surface version. The deeper version is that stress is altering your actual hormonal environment, and your sleep architecture responds to that environment whether you're consciously aware of feeling stressed or not. I think this is the piece that most sleep advice conveniently skips, because it's genuinely harder to explain than avoid caffeine after 2 p.m. It's much easier to hand someone a list of things to avoid than to explain that their evening hormonal state is actively shaping which stages of sleep their brain is capable of reaching that night. But I'd rather tell you the harder, truer version, because I think it actually explains why some nights you do everything right. Dark room, no phone, cool temperature, and you still wake up feeling like you barely slept. It's not that the checklist failed you. It's that the checklist was only ever addressing part of the picture. Here's something I find almost strangely comforting once you understand it this way. This isn't a character flaw. It was never really about discipline. Your sleep architecture is responding to biological signals. Temperature, digestion, hormone levels, light exposure, the same way it would for absolutely anyone else with the same inputs. Which means the version of you who wakes up exhausted isn't a worse or weaker version of you. It's simply a version of you whose evening created a different hormonal and physiological environment than the version who wakes up feeling clear-headed. That's a solvable problem, not a personal failing. So let's talk about light for a moment, because I think it's the most underestimated factor in this entire conversation, and it works in both directions, morning and night, in ways most people only know half of. Your circadian rhythm, the roughly 24-hour internal clock that governs when you feel alert and when you feel sleepy, is set primarily by light hitting a specific cluster of cells in your eyes, which then signals a small structure in your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. That structure is essentially your body's master clock, and it's remarkably sensitive to light, especially blue-toned light, especially in the evening. Here's where I think the popular version of this advice oversimplifies things. You've probably heard blue light before bed is bad. Repeated so many times it's become almost a reflex. And there's real truth underneath it. Light exposure late in the evening can suppress melatonin release and delay your body's natural signal to begin winding down. But I think the oversimplified version misses something important. It's not only the light itself, it's what the light is usually attached to. A phone screen at 11 p.m. isn't just blue light. It's also an active, engaging, often stimulating task. Scrolling through messages, replying to something, watching a short video that ends and immediately offers you another one. Your brain isn't just receiving light. It's staying cognitively engaged, sometimes emotionally activated, right at the moment it should be disengaging. I think that's the part that actually undermines your early sleep cycles more than the light wavelength on its own. And morning light matters just as much in the opposite direction. Exposure to bright light, ideally natural daylight, within the first hour or so after waking helps anchor your circadian rhythm, reinforcing the timing of when melatonin will naturally begin rising again, roughly 14 to 16 hours later that evening. People who get almost no morning light exposure, waking up in a dim room, going straight to a dim office, seeing very little outdoor light all day, often report a kind of drifting, inconsistent sleep pattern because their internal clock never receives a clear, strong day has started signal. It's a small thing that most people never connect to their nights at all. I want to name something else here too, because I think it deserves to be said plainly rather than danced around. None of what I'm describing to you is about willpower. Nobody wakes up at 3 a.m. feeling proud of themselves for having resisted screens the night before, and nobody who scrolls until midnight is doing it out of laziness. Most of us are just moving through habits nobody ever explained the actual cost of. I certainly was, for a long time. I'd hear "avoid screens before bed" as this vague, moralizing piece of advice without anyone ever walking me through why, specifically, at the level of melatonin and circadian timing and cognitive engagement. Once I understood the mechanism, it stopped feeling like a rule I was failing to follow and started feeling like information I could actually use. There's a quieter thread running through everything I've described so far, and I want to draw it out explicitly before we move forward. Every piece of this, deep sleep timing, cortisol, light exposure, alcohol, meal timing, points toward the same underlying idea. Your body isn't randomly deciding how rested you'll feel. It's responding with remarkable consistency to a set of specific signals you're sending it, mostly without realizing it. Which means the exhaustion isn't a mystery, and it isn't bad luck. It's a response, and responses can shift once the input shifts. I want to be honest with you about something, because I think honesty matters more here than sounding authoritative. A lot of sleep content out there will tell you that if you just do 5 things perfectly — dark room, cool temperature, no screens, no caffeine after 2 p.m., consistent bedtime — you'll wake up feeling fantastic every single morning. I don't think that's quite true, and I don't want to promise you something I don't actually believe. Bodies are more variable than that. Some nights, even with everything right, you'll still wake up a little foggy because sleep isn't a machine you can perfectly optimize like a spreadsheet. What I do believe, based on what the research actually shows, is that stacking these factors in your favor dramatically shifts the odds. Not perfection, odds. Let's talk about temperature for a moment, because it connects directly back to those early deep sleep cycles I mentioned earlier. Your core body temperature naturally drops by roughly 1 to 2 degrees as part of initiating sleep. It's part of the biological signal that tells your brain it's time to transition into those heavier, more restorative stages. A bedroom that's too warm works directly against this. Research on sleep environment consistently points to a cooler room, somewhere in the range that most people find slightly cool rather than cozy warm, as more supportive of that natural temperature drop. This is part of why a hot, stuffy room can leave you tossing and turning even when you're genuinely exhausted. Your environment is fighting against the exact physiological shift your body needs to make. Consistency is the other piece I think gets undervalued, mostly because it's boring advice, and boring advice doesn't spread the way dramatic advice does. Going to bed and waking up at roughly the same time, even on weekends, helps stabilize your circadian rhythm in a way that occasional, perfect nights surrounded by chaotic ones never quite achieves. I understand why this is hard. Weekends exist partly because we want freedom from schedules. But from a purely biological standpoint, your suprachiasmatic nucleus doesn't know it's Saturday. It's just reading your light exposure and your sleep-wake pattern and trying to build a predictable rhythm out of whatever signal you give it. Here's something I think about often, and I'll share it with you the way I'd share it with a friend rather than dress it up as some kind of expert pronouncement. Most of us were never taught any of this. We were taught get 8 hours the way we were taught to brush our teeth twice a day, as a rule, not as an explanation. Nobody sat us down and walked through cycles, or cortisol, or why the timing of deep sleep matters more than the total count. So, when our bodies don't cooperate with the simple version of the rule, it's easy to feel like something is uniquely wrong with us. I don't think that's usually the case. I think, more often, it's simply that the rule we were given was incomplete from the very beginning, for almost everyone. Not just you. There's a kind of relief available once you stop treating exhaustion as a personal mystery and start treating it as a signal. Information your body is giving you about the conditions of your evening. Not a punishment. Not a flaw. Just data. And once you can read that data a little more clearly, the nights start to shift, even if slowly, even if imperfectly. If you've stayed with me this far into the video, I want to take a short moment and invite you to subscribe to this channel and come back tomorrow night. I say that because this isn't really meant to be a one-time explanation. It's more like a conversation I want to keep having with you, night after night, about the things that actually affect how you rest, explained honestly, without the shortcuts. Every video builds a little more of the picture. So, if any part of tonight has felt useful, subscribing is really just you telling me you'd like to keep learning this alongside me. Now, let's get back to where we were, because there's one more piece I think matters more than almost anything else I've mentioned so far, and it's the piece that ties everything together. It's about what happens in the very first hour after you wake up. Because that hour, more than almost any other, seems to set the tone for how the rest of your day feels, and it connects directly back to everything we've covered about cycles and cortisol and light. Remember that cortisol awakening response I mentioned earlier, the natural rise in cortisol in the 30 to 60 minutes after you open your eyes. That rise isn't optional or incidental. It's your body's way of shifting from the low arousal state of sleep into the alertness you need to actually function. When that rise happens cleanly, supported by morning light, by not immediately grabbing your phone and flooding your brain with information and stress before you're even out of bed, people tend to report feeling clearer, more stable, more able to face the day. When that transition gets disrupted, say waking up already anxious, immediately checking messages, jumping straight into stimulation, the cortisol response can become more erratic. And that grogginess I mentioned earlier, sleep inertia, tends to linger longer. I think this is worth sitting with for a second, because it reframes something people usually think of as unrelated to sleep at all. How you wake up isn't separate from how you slept. It's the final chapter of the same story. The choices in that first waking hour ripple forward, but they also ripple backward, quietly shaping how your evening unfolds and, therefore, how your next night's cycles will go. It's not a straight line. It's a loop. Your morning shapes your evening. Your evening shapes your cycles. Your cycles shape tomorrow's morning. Around and around, night after night, mostly without your conscious awareness. I don't say this to overwhelm you with one more thing to manage perfectly. I say it because I think there's something almost freeing about seeing the whole loop clearly, instead of just the isolated fragments. Avoid screens, get sunlight, keep it cool, floating around disconnected from each other like separate rules with no relationship. They're not separate. They're one continuous system, responding to itself, adjusting itself, night after night, whether you're paying attention to it or not. There's a version of tonight where you close this video and nothing changes. You go back to counting hours, setting the same alarm, scrolling the same amount, and tomorrow feels exactly like today. That's allowed. Nobody's grading you on this. But there's another version, one where tonight you notice the temperature of the room before you get into bed, where you let the phone stay in another room, just this once, and see what that first hour without it actually feels like. Where tomorrow morning, before you reach for anything, you let a little real light hit your eyes and just stand there for a minute, doing nothing else. Small, almost nothing really, and also somehow everything, because your body was never asking you for perfection. It was only ever asking you to listen a little more closely to what it's already been trying to tell you every single night, in a language made of temperature and light and unresolved cortisol, long before you ever knew how to read it. Maybe tonight's the night you start. If this helped you understand your own nights a little differently, share it with someone who's been telling you they're tired all the time, even after enough sleep. They've probably been asking the wrong question too, the same way I was for years. And if you have a specific sleep question you want explained this same way, honestly, without the shortcuts, leave it in the comments. I read everyone, and some of the best videos on this channel started exactly there. I'll see you tomorrow night.